Hey guys, Ramesh here. Welcome back to React Hooks Spring Boot CRUD Full Stack Application series. In previous video, we have created a Spring Boot application and we have created a packaging structure in our Spring Boot application, and we have configured MySQL database, and we ran our Spring Boot application and we were successfully able to connect our Spring Boot application with MySQL database. In this video, what we'll do, we'll create JPA entity, Spring Data JPA repository, and one custom exception. Okay, let me stop the server. Let's go to model package, right click on model package new, and then choose Java class, and let's give class name as employee. Hit enter, and let's define few instance variables. Private long id, so this will become a primary key for employees table, and then private string first name of the employee. Similarly, let's have a last name of the employee. Let's create one more field, something like email ID. Okay, great. Let's use Lombok annotation to reduce a boilerplate code. So when I use add getter Lombok annotation to create a getter methods for these private fields, and I'm gonna use add setter Lombok annotation to create a setter methods for these private fields, and we're gonna use no argument constructor, and also we're gonna use all argument constructor. Okay, great. So instead of these two dependencies, you can also use add data Lombok annotation. For example, add data Lombok annotation. But add data Lombok annotation internally provides so many things, like it internally generates toString method, hashcode method, equals method. Okay, so we don't want all those methods, so we're gonna simply use add getter and add setter methods here, setter annotations over here. Okay, great. Now I'm gonna use JPA annotation to make this class as a JPA entity. Let's add entity JPA annotation to make this class as a JPA entity, and I'm gonna use add table annotation to provide table data details over here. So let's give table name as employees. You can also specify schema and other details. Okay, to keep it simple, we just give table name to this class, and apart from that, we're gonna use @id JPA annotation to make this id as a primary key, and also we're gonna specify @generated value annotation here because we need to provide primary key generation strategy, right? So let's give identity as a primary key generation strategy, and here we're gonna use @column annotation to map a column name or to create a column name for this field. Let's give column name something like first underscore name, and you can also specify null label here. If you specify null label equal to false, then this column becomes not null. Okay, so go ahead and remove this. Similarly, let's give column name for last name as well. Name equals to last underscore name. Okay, and here we're gonna specify name for email underscore id. Okay, perfect. If you don't specify @column annotation, then JPA internally by default pick up this property name as a column name. Okay, if you don't specify @column annotation like this, then JPA is not enough to give a column name as name of this field. Okay, so we want column name as email underscore id, hence we need to specify this annotation. Now what we'll do, we'll run our Spring Boot application and we'll see whether this employees table will get created in a database or not. Let me go to Spring main entry point class and let me run this Spring Boot project. And our Spring Boot application is up and running in an embedded Tomcat server in port 8080. Now let's head over to terminal If you have MySQL Workbench, then you can go ahead and you can just open EMS database. Okay, I say use EMS here, database changed, and I will say show tables, and there we go. Employees table is successfully created in EMS database. It means that our JPA entity created successfully. Okay, next what we're going to do is we're going to create Spring Data JPA repository. Go to repository package, right click, new, and then choose Java class and choose interface here, and just give interface name as employee repository. Hit enter, and this repository should extend JPA repository. And JPA repository interface expect two parameters. First is type of the JPA entity, second type of the primary key. So we have given type as long to the primary key, hence we have specified employee as a long as a type here as a second parameter, and this is the employee JPA entity type. Okay, and here we don't have to add a repository annotation here because Spring Data JPA internally take care of adding repository annotation to JPA repository implementation class. Okay, great. Now we have created employee repository which extends JPA repository. Now this employee repository will get all the CRUD database methods. Okay, all CRUD database methods to interact with the database. Alright, once we create employee repository, next we're going to create one custom exception, that is ResourceNotFoundException. So whenever a record not exist in database table, then our application should throw the exception. That exception will be again sent back to the client, right? So for that, go to the exception package, right click on it, new, and choose Java class, and let's give class name as ResourceNotFoundException, and hit enter, and this exception should extend runtime exception. Okay, and go ahead and create one constructor over here, public resource not found, and here we're gonna pass message, and this constructor takes a parameter as message. Okay, great. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna annotate this exception with one very important annotation, that is at response status annotation. So we can also annotate this, we can also use this annotation in REST API, but instead of repeating this annotation in each and every REST API which throws this exception, we can simply add this annotation in a common place, okay, in this custom exception itself. We no need to repeat this annotation in all the REST APIs which throw this exception. Okay, so whenever a REST API throw this exception, the REST API should return this exception message to the client, right, with status code not found. For that, we're going to define a value here. Status value is not found, right? HTTP status dot not found. Okay, great. Alright, we have created one custom exception, and we have created JPA entity, and we have created a Spring Data JPA repositories in this video. Alright, in next video what we'll do, we'll deep dive into building the REST endpoints. Okay, I will see you in the next video.